Thank you for listening to the Crown Refs Podcast, the audio experience for basketball officials. Serve the game.
You have a passion for what you do. That's why you're one of the best at it. And that's why people enjoy listening to your podcast, because the energy you bring and the things you do to make us all better. Like, people say, what are some of the things you do? I listen to Crown Refs. I listen to what Paul does because I'm one of his biggest fans, and I hope you guys pick up some great tips here. If you ever need anything at all, Paul has my contact info. He'll get it to you. I'll be happy to answer any questions. And let's go, Crown Refs.
Mr. Ayers.
Paul, thanks for coming.
It's a pleasure being here. I felt like, first of all, thank you for the episode 100. That was amazing.
Hey.
Truly one of maybe probably the best episodes we put out. And I felt like a great connection with you. And that's honestly partially the reason why I'm here, is to continue to further this connection, but experience this great camp that you have going. And I was just telling Mike yesterday, one of the differences from this camp to other camps is, as soon as it started yesterday, you went and shook every single person's hand. Mm-hmm. And that's something that you don't see, and It should be common. So I just got to feel right away that this camp is different, and I'm really enjoying it so far.
Thanks for coming. And I had so much feedback from that episode when people were emailing me, texting me, people I didn't even know, and say, Roger, I'm so glad you did the episode on Crown Refs, because I listened to just one thing you said and I tried it, and it worked. And just that's kind of like yesterday you talked about shaking hands. As you've seen at this camp, I teach a positive message. I think if you're a good person, good things are going to happen to you in life. You don't have to be a jerk to be an official. You don't have to be a jerk in life. Mm-hmm. You know, and some of the things that's helped me be successful in officiating is I like to think that when coaches see me on the court, they're like, you know what, I don't like every call he makes, but he is one of the good guys. At least I can talk to him and communicate, and that's why I'm helping out your officials that listen to Crown Refs. I'm like, you know what, if I can just help one official maybe this upcoming year on a cold Friday night in January when they have a play and they think, Roger Ayers said try this, and they try it and it works, they'll be like, I'm glad I listened to Crown Refs. That one tip he gave me, it works. Because the successes I've had in officiating are all because of things not only I've learned by reading the rule book, which is extremely important. It's the stuff I talked about yesterday. It's the things that aren't in the rule book. It's real world things and how you handle officiating and how you handle people. At the end of the day, officiating is a people business. If you're a good person, you can deal with coaches, but more importantly, if you're a good partner and people want to, as I said yesterday, if they want to work with you, and people listen to this topic here we're talking about, as I said, don't be a jerk. Be the guy everybody wants to work with. Bring your partners up, because at the end of the day, when the game starts, that's all you got.
That's it.
You know, so I'm a big fan of Crown Refs. So and what you do, you've helped officials tremendous. You have no idea how many people are here at this camp because of that episode.
That's awesome.
And people tell me, I say, well, how did you hear about it? And they go, Crown Refs. You know, Paul, I listen to his episodes, and I want to be a part of what you're doing. And I told someone this morning, there's 85, 86 people here. If I only help one or two, if it gets through to them and it helps them not only in officiating but in life, like the positive videos we're showing, the message we're showing, this camp is a lot more than just X's and O's and where to stand and lead and where to stand and trail. I could take anybody off the street here today and say, I want you to go stand on that basketball court at the free throw line extended, and it's going to be called the slot position. You just stand there. That doesn't make them a referee. And there's a lot more that goes into it. So I've been very lucky.
And there's real culture that you've established. It's like a family kind of environment here. And I know yesterday you were saying there's no pressure. And a lot of times when you come to camp, you do feel a little bit of a pressure, you know,
Sure.
A lot of eyes on you. But it's for you to instill that in officials. Just come out here, work your games. This is a learning, instructional type environment. And it's been amazing to meet so many people from the Crown Refs audience that,
Sure.
you know, I'm able to connect with and meet in person. That's where the internet meets real life. So that's pretty cool, you know.
No doubt. When this camp came about, it was late because of COVID. It was 6 weeks ago. There was no camp. There was nothing planned for here. And Mike Eads, who we used to have the camp with, called me and said, Roger, I can't do it due to my SEC job now, but would you consider doing it? And I went, Mike, you can't. It's hard to put together a camp in 6 weeks, but with video, the internet, the Crown Refs, the Court Cub elites of the world, the people I spoke to, the podcast I did last year, your audience I reached out to, so many people came here and said, Roger, the only reason I'm here is because Crown Refs, and I heard your episode, and you said a couple things that really resonated with me, and it wasn't so much, I can read so much in books, but I need to see it. I need to know that it actually works. You know, in some of the games you work, I see you talking to coaches, and they may be upset, but by the time you're finished, there's a little smile on their face. I want to pick your brain. What are you saying in those situations? Give me a few tips, because officials are so hungry. They want to move up, and if you could just give them a few tips, because there's a lot of people here at this camp who have great judgment, who run like a deer. I mean, they're not as fast as you and me, but they run good, but they don't have that what's holding them back, that extra.
Yeah.
You know, how to calm down coaches, what to communicate, you know, how to watch, like Al Batista doing a video, how to watch video today. All those things go into what makes you an official.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people put a black and white shirt on, but that doesn't make them a referee.
Yeah. And the great thing about what you're doing and what you did on the podcast is you're giving us tactical stuff.
Yeah.
You know, like not big picture type stuff. This is stuff we can just take and go apply it to the situation, you know?
Yeah, the things I talked about yesterday, you'll be able to use today, Paul.
Yeah.
There are things, this is a great time to work on things during the summer camp season. These games, I mean, yeah, they're important to these kids, but there's two camps. I feel like there's a team camp for the players, but the most important camp is the officials camp. That's what my energy and passion is for, is to teach you. It's funny, when I came to Liberty the other day, she goes, Roger, we don't have a meeting room for you, but I've got your basketball court roped off so y'all can dribble and y'all can run your drills. And I went, referee camp, we don't dribble basketballs and run shit. But that's what they think of officials camp. They thought we were going to be on a basketball court. I said, I need a classroom. We need to teach. But people really don't understand about officiating. And let's face it, officials, when we walk out there, sometimes I think there's already a negativity towards us.
100%.
They're like, these three suck. These guys are not very good. They're always against us. And not only from fans and media now, but players, coaches have that negativity.
Sure.
And what's helped me succeed is I've tried to, over the years, kind of maybe be a little bit of a good guy out there. Tell them it's okay. You can talk to me, or if you're hurt, take your time. You know, if there's a wet spot, as I showed yesterday on the tape, where the kid from Carolina was hurt, and I could he's bending over. Well, it's just a human being, not as a referee. Common sense should tell you, okay, Roger, don't bounce on the ball right now when he's bent over, he's hurt. Go find a way, go do something. As I said, that's not in the rule book.
Yeah.
That's things I had to learn. And then after that play happens, the next time out, Coach Roy Williams said, Roger, you're the best. I saw what you did.
Yeah.
Little things. And like, I tell people all the time, well, Roger, I know every page is rule book, and I'm not getting any games. I say, well, you're missing something. There's more to it than just the referee. And I mentioned this several times, and I told this, I probably mentioned this on Crown Refs. Coaches, 90% of the time, who call in and complain on Paul or Roger after a game, it's not about a block charge. It's not about a missed travel. It's, you know what Paul said to me? You know what Roger said to me? Do you know what Roger said to my play? You know, that's what they complain about. So I had to learn early on, if that's mostly what they call in and complain about, then I'll just talk to them. You know, you hear Coach, I just want somebody to communicate. I just want somebody to talk to me. That's all I got to do. Yeah. I can ref. I love reffing, but if all I got to do is talk to you and smooze you for 2 hours and listen to you complain, and then, oh, Coach, I hear you. Yeah, you make a good point. Tough play. His partners sometimes ask me, Paul, they'll go, Roger, it's 15,000 people now. How did you hear what that coach was saying? I go, I got no clue what he's saying, but he thinks I did. Coach, I hear you. Yeah. That's a good point. I don't know what he said.
Right.
But all he wanted was someone to maybe look at him and say, I hear you. That's a good point. Walk out. Hey, Roger, what you want? I go, I don't know. Don't care. I'm just trying to calm that situation down, let him move on to something else. But to me, it's like a Broadway play on which it's a 2-hour event. It's a show. You're part of it, and you got to get through it. Nobody's there to see you. So if you're in games when all chaos breaks loose and there's 10 technical fouls, what's the first thing all Crown refs, everybody does? What's the first thing all refs do the next morning? They're on the phone. Who had that game? Who had that game? Yeah. What you want us to do, man, I don't know who refed it. You hear that all the time, but there's chaos refs and there's good refs. You know, I try to be one of those good refs, and I don't want chaos. Yeah. I don't want to call the office, talk about technical fouls. And sometimes if you do these tricks, you don't have to deal with it.
Would you say it's when you do have chaos, one of the keys is being comfortable within that chaos?
Absolutely. First thing I would tell you, and if you remember how I started this camp yesterday, I told everyone, everybody take a deep breath. Just chill. Because like you said earlier, there are people who come to camps and they're a little anxiety. They've been planning this. They've been traveling, trying to get here. They're excited to be here. But there's always that, they look around the room. And like when I would go to camps, I look around and say, wow, that guy looks really good. I know that guy. I've seen him. And it's intimidating. Yeah. And you're sitting there going, your mind starts to tell you, I don't belong here. That's why I said, you know what? Everybody take a deep breath. This is a zero pressure camp. No one's going to yell at you. No one's going to embarrass you. And I know when I was going to camp, if someone would have told me that and I was sitting in a chair and I went, well, I like this guy. He's telling me right now, all I got to do is ref. Nobody's going to yell at me or embarrass me. I just got to come blow the whistle and try to learn some things. He's right. There is no pressure here. Yeah. And that's stress with my staff. Yes, I said, remember, guys, no negativity. You know, tell them their strengths and weaknesses, but pump them up. We're trying to make these people. I want you to go out there and feel like, actually, you're better. You're better than you think you are. That's what I want to build you up. Don't bring people down and crush people. Like when I ref with people, the tricks I talked about yesterday, when I would say something like, you know what, great call, Paul. That's a big time call, Paul.
Yeah.
And I didn't even see what you had, but if the coach thinks a veteran on the crew says, well, Paul got it right. I think he missed it, but Roger said he got it right. He must have got it right. Those are all little things. I know when I was coming up, if I worked with the Tim Higgins of the world, or the Jim Burrs, or the John Cales, or the Brian Kerseys, if I'd make a tough call and everybody's booing, the coaches are yelling, and they would just come by, good call, kid. Great call, kiddo. Big time call, Raj. Knowing it, they probably didn't mean it, but at that moment,
Makes a big
if John Cale said great call, Roger, I'm like, well, yeah.
It's so true. That's a real thing.
We've all been there. And sometimes it might be just a pound leg, great call, kid. Nobody saw it but you, but how you feel inside, because you're starting to think, you're reporting the foul and you're thinking, my partner didn't like the call. I mean, now everybody's against me, but if that partner says, that's a big time call. Yeah. So I learned that. So you know what? I know how it made me feel. So now if I had a game with you this year in the ACC and I said, Paul, great call, you're going to think, well, Roger likes it. Yeah. You know, and after the game, as I said, we could talk about it, but at that moment, for the next hour and a half, 2 hours, you feel it. You're like, I'm ready to ref this game. And if you make your partners better, you're going to be better.
That's a real tip, and I had the same experience, with a veteran. What's up? We're good.
Let me just tell you one thing. I got a problem. I think I left my keys in the car, and so I don't have my jersey to do my 9 o'clock game.
What size are you?
Large.
I got large for you.
Thank you.
Well, great partnering.
That is good partner.
Yeah. Yeah, you might need a shirt.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. As Paul says, 30-second timeout.
Just looking.
Yeah.
I mean, when Aubrey gets out the lunch, we may want to get a couple pieces in the lunch.
I got 5 in the car.
Yeah. I should have known that.
Come on, brother.
I should have known that.
That was a good little segue into good partnering, huh?
Oh, perfect.
Just
Right there.
naturally worked out.
It's amazing. Somebody locks their shirt, Paul steps right up.
Listen, I know we spoke about the end of your season with COVID, and I'm sorry that happened to you. I'm very happy that you're okay and got through that. What was it like, though, reffing this season after that year off, and how did it feel getting back on the court this year?
Actually, it felt like even going up to, we had all these Zoom calls and everything building up to November because they pushed the season back to right after Thanksgiving. I still had my doubts because they were telling us you're going to have to be tested every day. You're going to have to go to FedEx every morning. You're going to have a tracking number, and people are going to test positive, and teams are going to test positive, and games are going to get shut down. And going into the game may be canceled when you're in the locker room. And one of the biggest games in the country last year was Baylor Gonzaga in Cleveland. Myself and Doug Shows and Vern Harris were in Indy. We go to the game. We're dressed. It's in December. There's some CBS. We're ready to go. We're in the locker room. The whole country's ready to see this game. My phone rings. Hey, Roger, sorry your game got canceled. It's from my buddy. He said I was looking forward to watching it. And I typed back, what game? He said, your game's canceled. I go out, and the CBS people are taking the cameras down. I said, what's going on? And I see Mark Few and Scott Drew. And they walk over and said, one of our kids tested positive. This game's canceled. I mean, it's reality. It's part of it. And it's amazing what the NCAA did to get through and to have a March Madness and the testing and the mask and all that stuff, going to locker rooms. And a lot of times we would be separated, 3 separate locker rooms, different. But you know what's funny about COVID and officiating is once the game started, it was back to what you do. Now, there's a lot of stuff you had to do off the court, with trying to find a FedEx at 9:30 at night, and then to get a tracking number, and then to send it to all the league offices, and then waiting for that test result to come back in. And what happened in Indy was that was before the ACC tournament. Just saying, I had tested 7 straight days consistently. On Friday of the ACC tournament, they tested me twice. Saturday, I'm off. I fly to Dayton. I get to Dayton, I test negative. Roger, go. So I go relax. Sunday, I work the game in the A10 finals. Get to Indy. Feel great. I'm so excited. I'm like, this is a March. We made it to March Madness. That's like everybody's dream. You want to work the tournament, especially this year with everything, the hoops we went through. It was kind of like almost a little bit of a trophy saying, you 60 guys, you went through all the hoops, you made it. And to wake up on that Monday morning to a phone call from a lady saying, I'm such and such from the Indiana Health Department, you've tested positive. It was shocking. I said, man, it's got to be a mistake. I've been tested daily. Can't be. I said, I feel fine. I said, and I actually made a comment. I said, it's 9 a.m. I said, I had a Starbucks. I'll go ref right now. And she said, sir, what we're going to do is we're going to send 2 people to your room and test you now to make sure. And said, if it's negative, we'll release you to the NCAA. we're actually having a Zoom call with J.D. Collins. He said, I called at 11 a.m. that day. The phone rings, and it's her, and she said, the Indiana State Health Department now has you in quarantine. You have tested positive. You are not to leave your room. You're now in that room for 14 days. Well, there's silence, and I'm like, well, ma'am, I can't stay 14 days, and this is what she said. Please don't interrupt me. This is being recorded. This is you are now at the state of it, and then I knew it was serious. She said, you're going to have several phone calls in the next half hour or so, because now it's going to go back into contact tracing, and we're going to go back 72 hours, everything you've done, everything you've been around, the teams, your officials, what flight number. I went to Starbucks in Dayton. They wanted the address. They wanted the rental card, name of the rental card, who I talked to, where I went to eat in Dayton on my day off. Did my crew go with me? In the locker room, did you have your, they went from 72 up until I was tested positive. It was kind of a scary situation. But the 2-3 people that helped me get through that the most that day was I had to call JD during the Zoom call. And I texted him, I said, JD, when you're done with the Zoom call, give me a call. So the call ends, he said, good morning, Raj, how we doing, pal? I said, not good. And I said, JD, I'm positive. And there's silence, because even though they knew it could possibly happen, they weren't expecting it. And of 60 reps, I had to be the one that tested positive. But there was silence on the phone, and then he goes, Roger, whatever you need from the NCAA, I'm at your beck and call. Brad Taylor, Dan Gavitt, whatever you need. I can't tell you how many times those 3 guys would call me before games, be 7 p.m. tip-off, and I'd look at my phone, there'd be a text message because I was sick then. I'd gotten really sick. So I'd look at my phone in the middle of the night, it'd be from J.D. Collins at 6:40 p.m. Roger, thinking about you. Do you need anything? We got you. And Dan Gavitt, who's got this whole tournament going on, Roger, you're important to us. It made me feel like, you know what, maybe we are more than just refs or piece. I mean, maybe we do mean something to these people. Brian Kersey, the ACC, called me every day. And then even after I got better, and I told Dan Gavitt, he called me, and I said, I just want to say something to you. You had this tournament going on with a lot of pressure on you to pull it off. I said, the fact that you took time several times to call me, I'll never forget that. Never. So it was different, a wake-up call. But I look at it, I tell you, it's funny, Paul, when I was going to the hospital that day to get, they said I was having trouble breathing. And then I got scared, and I called my doctor, and I said, I'm having trouble breathing. And then his nurse says, call 911, get an ambulance, go straight to, I'm trying to be a tough guy. I said, call 911. I'm not going to go, I can drive. So I get to the hospital, and as soon as I got there, they all masked up because they knew I was coming, and it felt like I was in a war zone. And they're taking me down a hallway in a wheelchair, and they just roll me to this room, and I go by people in that COVID unit that were really struggling. And I was looking, I was thinking, you know what, it's scary. And I'm like, I'm going to beat. There's people that need this bad. And I remember the doctors coming after they did the scans, and they said, you have some congestion in your chest, and you have a shadow on your right lung we're concerned about. It could be going into pneumonia, and that's an issue for us. It could go into a blood clot, and there's a lot of issues here. And I just kept saying, I got to beat this. I can do this. There's people out there in Roanoke that are sicker than I am that need this bad, that need more help. And they said, we need to keep you in isolation. I said, can I go home? Let me just give me the medicine, the breathing. I'll go home and do it because there's other people out here who need this bad. And they allowed me to go home, and for the next 4 or 5 days, couldn't get out of bed. It's just like you hear. Could go to the bathroom. Just to get to the kitchen to get a little bit of Gatorade was all I could take. But looking back on it now, I'm one of the lucky ones, and it's funny, they played the Final Four without me, and they played the national tournament without me, and it was a great tournament. And I look at it as there's a lot of officials who got some opportunity. I hate it that the 5 guys I had dinner with, I hate that. I mean, they've obviously told me I've got to buy dinner all this upcoming season. I'm buying all the time, but there was, with us 6 guys getting sent home, that's just opportunity for 6 other guys to step up, and I was really proud of those guys who stepped up. And I never heard one coach after a game get on an interview and say, well, if we'd have had Roger Ayers here, if we'd have had John Higgins here, it would have been, no. The refs did an outstanding job. So,
what'd you think of watching your guys in the later rounds, Final Four, championship game?
Almost more nervous than if I'd been working, because you want them to do so well. We're all obviously competitive. All refs are competitive. All refs want to work the last game, like I talked about last night. There's only one ref who's truly happy at the end of the season, the guy who throws up a national championship. But I think at the higher levels of officiating, guys pull for each other. Now, there are some that don't. Let's be honest with each other. There's jealousy in officiating. But I think the top guys, the circle that I try to hang out with, we are actually happy for each other. There were guys who were in Indianapolis, working games, who would text me every day or call me every day. And I'm like, look, man, you're in this bubble. You don't need to worry about me. You need to concentrate on what you're doing. They're like, no, Roger, I'm checking on you. And that made me feel like, you know what, maybe the things how I was raised with my parents, maybe being this good person, there are people who really do care. There were, as I said, a lot of coaches would text me and say, Roger, I don't know if I should be doing this, but I want to text you and say, I hope you're okay. I hope if you need anything at all, you let us know. It just made me feel like, you know what, maybe this isn't such a bad business. We're lucky officials to get to do what we do and to be in the ACC and the Big East and the Big 12. I get to go to these arenas, and I never dreamed I'd be doing what I'm doing and getting to go to these cities and travel and Maui and Madison Square Garden. And I just got in this to do rec ball on Saturday mornings, and I look around. Sometimes when I pinch myself, I get people say, "You're so lucky," and I go, "You know what? They're right."
Aren't you glad you listened to your dad's advice on the ride home in that
No
first
doubt.
camp?
I almost quit. I was like, from this camp, I was driving home, and he said, "Son, okay, we'll get you a job. You can come in here and work 9 to 5 every day if you want." And I'm like,
that was slick how he lined up.
Yeah, he
here,
lined
right?
up the roof across the street. He said, "I'm sitting here watching them right now." But the older people, he had a vision. He said, "Son, if you want to be a quitter, you're going to quit in your whole life." Because I remember as a kid, like nowadays, these transfers and all this. When I was a kid, I sit down like my coach. He made me run. He made suicides. I said, "I'm going to quit." "No, you're not. You're going to be the first one in practice tomorrow." Well, I remember I was a catcher in baseball, and I didn't get to play my first year, my freshman year. And I go, "Dad, this guy doesn't, I'm screwed. I'm quit." He said, "No, you're not. You go right back there to that team. You go right back to that game tomorrow, and go right back to that practice. You say, Coach, whatever you need." And I remember after games, my dad, like the teams would start to walk off the field, and my dad would just look at me, and I'd be the one. I'd carry the bat. I'd carry the bat. Whatever I could do to help that team as a freshman, whatever he said, you go do it. And there's lessons now that have been instilled in me, like officiating. It didn't happen overnight. There were a lot of camps I went to and discouraged and beat down, and you start to second guess yourself. Like I'm not good enough. I can't do what these other people do. I don't have what it takes. And if you have that mentality, then you're not going to have what it takes. You're not going to make it. You're going to get beat down on this climb, as you know. There's a lot more of this than this. And to get to this level, you got to believe in one person. And as I've said this before, and some of your audience has probably heard me, the one person listening to this that can help you the most is the one you look at in the mirror. That's right. So if I wake up tomorrow morning and look in the mirror and say, I can't do this, I can't ref, I can't go handle that coach, I'm scared, I don't want to go to camp because there's 84 of the refs here, you're not going to be a success. You need to look in the mirror and say, okay, it's you and me here. You want to do this or not? And you kick yourself in the butt and say, if you have a bad game tomorrow, you know what? We all have bad games. And I mentioned this yesterday, and I'll tell anyone listening to this podcast, if you ever work the perfect game, retire. Quit that day, and you can have camp everywhere across the country because everybody will want to come say, how did Paul do it? How did you work the perfect game? You'll never have to ref another game. You're a billionaire. It's never going to happen. So every game they'll say, Roger, I watched your game. You and Paul did a great job last night, the game at Duke. Well, you and I know we got to be better. We got to be better than we were last night. So whatever the people I asked last night in one of the meetings, what's the biggest game you ever worked? And I got all kinds of asking the campers. I don't know if you were in here. And I said, tell me your biggest game you ever worked. And one was like, well, it was a high school playoff game. And one guy said, well, I got a first round girls tournament game, or I got my first D1 game. And I said, the biggest game is your next one. Because no one cares about what you did last year. And I used this example last night. If you go to I challenge the campers, go to Starbucks tomorrow morning, and the guy behind you say, sir, I'll buy you the largest coffee you want, and I'll give you $1,000. All you got to do is tell me one ref who worked the Final Four this year. 99.9% of the country will go, what are we talking about?
Yeah, exactly.
Because nobody cares. If you ask most coaches, they don't care. If you go shake your coach's hand this upcoming season, they're not going to say, oh, yeah, Paul, I saw you last man. You were big time. That's great to see you. They're like, no, Paul, you got to be good tonight. They don't care about yesterday. They're so focused on this game and their team and the winning. They're so officials sometimes we're our own worst enemy. If we listen to all the pats on the back we get about how great we are, you're going to start to be complacent. I want to keep going this way. My drive is to be better this upcoming season than I've ever been in my career. The fact I didn't get to work the NCAA tournament, my goal this year is to be 100 refs picked.
You're coming back strong this year.
I'm coming back strong. I'm going to bring the good gel. I've already talked to Paul Mitchell, where they've already said we're shipping you the good stuff. My goal, and JD said, I said, my goal, JD, is to be one of the 100 guys you pick next year. So I'm going into every game thinking, this is the NCAA National Championship game this year, Roger. You want to do this, you get back on the horse and ride it. Don't get knocked down. It's like having a bad game. You have a bad game, do you quit? No. I had COVID. Did I quit? No. I'd lay in bed and I'd be thinking, you got to get back out there. This is what you do. Whatever you do in life, whether it's military, police, fight, whatever you do, if that's your passion, just because you have a sick day or you're down, that's what you want in life, you got to do it. You have a passion for what you do. That's why you're one of the best at it.
Thank you.
And that's why people enjoy listening to your podcast, because the energy you bring and the things you do to make us all better. Like people say, what are some of the things you do? I listen to Crown Reps. I listen to what Paul does, because the speakers you have on, like I think when I spoke in episode 100, the speaker before me, he was a WNBA women's coach. I don't remember. Dan Hughes. And one of the things you talked to him about was how he handles when a referee says, I missed the call or whatever. And his answer was, thank you. Okay, I got it. No problem. And I was like, those are things I do. And that's a coach, a professional coach saying, yeah, when referee tells me miss the play, I'm okay. If a referee argues with me and says he didn't miss I'm going to go at him. And I'm like, those are things I do. But even at the level I'm at, I'm still trying to learn. I'm like, okay, Roger, the stuff you're doing, there's a coach telling Paul that, yeah, if a ref admits he missed the call, I'm okay with it. Well, I'm like, okay, then this stuff really does work. So I'm still trying to improve every day. And any tidbit I can get from your podcast, I steal it. And then I pass it on to others. I'm go, did you guys listen to Crown Reps? Did you hear that episode? Or like I'll be at the gym walking the track and I'll just pop in on my phone and podcast. And Scott Foster or Al Batista or what. It's just amazing what you can pick up. Little tips. And maybe it's just one thing. But if you keep adding one or two things to your repertoire every day or every other day, it's amazing what's going to wind up in your basket. I can't wait. They won't do this. I can't wait till you guys see what happens with those jelly beans I'm putting in that jar. It's amazing what that's all about. But it's all part of our journey, and that's what this camp is about, the journey.
I appreciate your time. I know you have a lot of campers coming in, and I want to get to them. This is part of my new platform for officials called Patreon. So this is a private group. Is there anything you want to say in closing to the officials that are watching?
No, but thank you very much for listening to Crown Reps. I'm one of his biggest fans, and I hope you guys pick up some great tips here. If you ever need anything at all, Paul has my contact info. He'll get it to you. I'll be happy to answer any questions, and let's go Crown Reps.
And sorry,
serve the game.
Thank you. And sorry that this camera doesn't show your hair as well as it should have. That's my fault.
Well, if I move over here, God, my hair looks better than yours.
Have a great day.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for listening to the Crown Refs Podcast. Serve the game.